I said that I was going to stay on top of this, and I also stated my position. And I said that it wasn't wrong that the Texas school and the principal himself decided to remove the student based off of what his hair was. I know y'all been listening to NDRE and saying y'all not y'all hair. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. When in America, let me revise that. When in Texas, you do what Texas say. Now, there was a lot of controversy about this, but the courts have spoken. And they said that, listen, you cannot do what you want to do when you want to do it. You're going to abide by the rules that we set forth in this school, or you're going to find somewhere else to go. Now, before we go into the judge's ruling, I want to replay for y'all what originally happened in the original video, because some of y'all wasn't here, some of y'all new to the platform. Make sure you tap into the Patreon. And so now I want to replay for you what happened so that you guys can be brought up to speed, and then we're going to go back into the whole situation of what happened.
For Daryl George, just outside Houston, Texas, hair has defined his junior year of high school.
How has this all felt for you?
It's very stressful. I'm trying to maintain being a student while also having to deal with this.
The 18-year-old has now been suspended twice over his hairstyle at Barbers Hill High School, most recently in early December. The first time was back in August, when school officials said George's braided locks fell below his eyebrows and earlobes, which violated.
Somebody say, Anton, if you get pressed on your facial hair, what would you do? The same thing that you got to do if you go, the same thing that I did when I was working in the plant. When I was working in the plant, the first thing that they did was they said that you got to do a respirator test. And anybody that's ever done a respirator test, especially working in a steel plant, knows that you got to have zero facial hair. And so what did I do? I had a beard kind of similar like this, except it didn't have as much gray in it, and I cut it off. You know why? Because I wanted the job. I didn't protest. I didn't sit there and go back and forth. I made a decision based off of what was best for my family. And I cut my facial hair off and I wanted the job. When I was in the restaurant business and I decided to open up a restaurant, I had to make sure that everybody was in there. Either they had to wear a hair net or you had to wear a net over your beard. Because guess what? We didn't want hair in people's food. And so we adjusted according to the environment that we was in, or we could have chose not to participate at all. A lot of people asking me questions like my answer is going to change. It doesn't. I know that if I'm going into a certain position or if I'm going into a certain room, I have to adjust. I'm not going to wear a big old afro. Stop trying to justify something to me that I'm not ever going to be on board with. I don't care about your feelings. I don't. When I went to middle school, we couldn't have wild hair. We couldn't be out here looking like Shaka Zulu. Not only could we not wear wild hair, but we had to pull our pants up. We couldn't wear whatever clothes that we wanted to wear. We could wear a variety of different clothes based off of whatever it is that they designated as appropriate for young men that were becoming, young boys that were becoming men. That's why they called us cubs, right? When I went to middle school, in private school, my father sent me to private school for 7th and 8th grade. We had to wear a tie. The tie could not have anything on it that was crazy. We had to wear a collared shirt, buttoned all the way up to the top. We had to wear slacks with a belt. You could not come to school without a belt. You had to go to the office and you had to get up out of there. We had to do volunteer work. We had to put in so many different hours. We had to make sure we still paid our tuition. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. It was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life. I changed my whole outlook and my whole perspective on life based off of that experience.
Violated the school district's dress code for boys.
Why should I cut my hair for my education? My hair has nothing to do with my education.
George was put in a disciplinary off-campus education program, and when he returned to school with his style intact, he was suspended again. The family filing a federal civil rights lawsuit against Texas Governor Greg Abbott and the state's attorney general in September, alleging that George's suspension violates the Crown Act, a Texas state law that took effect September 1st, prohibiting race-based discrimination, banning employers and schools from penalizing people because of their hair texture or protective styles, such as afros, twists, or dreadlocks. At least 24 states have their own version of the law, according to the think tank the Economic Policy Institute. Much of that legislation following high-profile incidents of alleged hair discrimination against African Americans.
Yo, we got a lot of things that we got to fix in the black community. And you telling me that we got so much energy for hair? Young men shouldn't even have long hair, in my opinion, in the first place. I think that we need to teach them to be more appropriate for the environment that we want them to go into in the first place. If you want to go into information technology, you want to go into certain environments, you want to do whatever. Listen, if you just want to be a construction worker, then yeah, go ahead and do whatever you want to do. But we don't have no kind of order. And as I seen this video, and I seen I seen the young boy, and there was no man in the picture. There's never, ever any man in the picture. And you telling me that this is the fight that we fighting over hair discrimination?
We're alleging that the grooming...
It's never a man. It's never a man. But you see some fake eyelashes. You see a ton of makeup. You see some fake hair. But you don't see no men in the picture. It's a lot of things that we can identify in this frame right now, in this freeze frame right now. But would you know what we don't see? We don't see no men in the picture.
Code of Barbers Hill ISD is unconstitutional. The law says whether or not you intend to target a specific protected class.
I see fake eyelashes, a ton of makeup, fake eyebrows, fake hair, fake lipstick. I see fake everything, but I do not see, is that hair protective? Oh man, it helps my hair grow. Well, what difference will it make if you're never gonna wear it anyway? I gotta get weave, I gotta get a wig because it makes my hair grow. Well, what difference do it make if you're never gonna wear your regular hair anyway? You might as well just go bald like Amber Rose.
Class, if the end result is that only the protected class is affected, is discriminatory.
Georgia's attorney says the district is engaging in a discriminatory pattern since back in 2020, 2 other students, both black teens, were also suspended for their hairstyles.
Good.
In response, the Barbers Hill
Good.
School District tells NBC News in part the claim is false, saying it has many African American students who wear dreadlocks and other similar protected hairstyles and comply with the district's length policy. We have one who does not. The superintendent adding that there are some African American students with religious exemptions for hair length, but, quote, we do not have an exception for I don't want to follow the rules. The superintendent also calling the lawsuit baseless and filing a lawsuit to clarify that the Crown Act does not address length or any other student expression, but instead protects the right to wear braids. Texas governor's and attorney general's offices did not respond to our request for comment. As for Daryl George, his attorney says this legal battle has taken its toll. She requested a temporary injunction so George can return to school.
I feel like I ain't going nowhere with it. As of right now, no.
His family representative telling us many have encouraged the teenager to cut his hair and let the case go.
Daryl has hair that's woven in his head from his grandfather and from other ancestors. And this is how he is connected to his people.
What?
Shout out to Psychedelic Sense on Cash App. I appreciate you for supporting the platform. Thank you, my friend, and Brian Hunter. You guys are absolutely awesome.
What does your hair and your hairstyle mean to you?
It just means a lot to me. It made me feel more closer to my people. Being without my hair is like cutting me from my people, not letting me, express myself how I feel I should be.
All right, Zinkley joining us now. Zinkley, we hear this whole conversation around length versus braids. What exactly is the Crown Act, and where do we stand right now in any broader legislation on the federal level?
Yeah, Sam, good to see you. So the Crown Act is an acronym that stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Of course, crown is also a term often used to refer to hair itself. And this legislation is particularly significant for the black community as there are a variety of natural hairstyles many African Americans use interchangeably. Even on this show, I've showed up to work with short curly hair and long braids. Now, as I mentioned, and as you asked, 24 states have their own version of the Crown Act, but there was a federal version of the act introduced in Congress in 2021 that passed in the House but was blocked by Senate Republicans.
So that's basically the idea of what was happening back then. Let me bring y'all up to speed of what's happening right now. All right.
A Texas judge has sided with the school district in a very controversial case involving a decision to suspend a student over his dreadlocks. Daryl George is a junior at Barbers Hill High School, and his lawyers claim that the teen's hairstyle was protected by the state's Crown Act, which prohibits discrimination based on hair. Well, the back and forth has been going on for months.
As a matter of fact, not only are you going to take out that dog braids, but you also going to take off that earring. And that's what I'm standing on. Shout out to my dog Dre. I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly. You're not only going to take out the braids, but you're going to take out that earring, baby girl. Yes, you are. See, I don't have no tolerance. That's why I could never be a step baby daddy. This is why I be telling guys, listen, it's not best for you to even go down this path because you'll wind up being a step baby daddy and it's not going to be good for you, bro. This is why I could never be a step baby daddy because I'm going to tell your son and I'm going to tell him, I'm going to be like, hey, fam, I'm going to be just like Ving Rhames and Baby Boy. Walking in. Hey, Jody. Hey, Jody. Call for your mama. Hey, Jody. Jody. Yeah, call for your mama, boy. I ain't been on you because I had respect for your mama. But if we was in lockdown, I'd make you get on your knees and fix it. Shout out to my man that was wearing a dress, Ving Rhames, in a whole nother movie, but he was in Baby Boy making Tyrese fix it. Hey, Jody, I ain't dealing with your little raggedy son. Keep that little dude out of my face, man.
District said George was not following the dress code. He spent most of the school year in school suspension or at a disciplinary program. Well, now that Texas judge has ruled that the state's Crown Act does, in fact, not make it unlawful for school dress codes to limit a student's hair length.
The law finally didn't become too liberal to where they actually stood on business, and they're letting the superintendents do their job. They're letting the superintendents do their job. Shout out to the Texas superintendents and the judge that sided with them. Shout out to you, Tamara. I'm going to be reading that super chat shortly.
Our Morgan Norwood joins us now. So, Morgan, first of all, we want the audience to hear the reaction to this ruling from Jolanda Jones, the Texas State Representative for House.
And I also wanted to pick a liberal platform in order for them to get their rocks off so that we can have some diversity, equity, and inclusion on this show.
147.
And one of the ways that we as black people are able to grow our hair long, like maybe some of our European counterparts have, is that we lock our hair or we braid our hair. That's the whole point.
There's the woman with all these chemical blonde in her hair, cut her natural hair off, and got a nose ring in her hair, and she's sitting there telling y'all what y'all are supposed to do, and this is who y'all following.
That's the whole point, she says. Well, what do we know now after this ruling?
Okay, I can just say it's a pretty shocking decision, and it was reportedly met by sighs and frustrations inside that courtroom, including from advocates and supporters of Daryl George. I mean, this was a months-long legal battle, right? The district had asked the judge to weigh in on whether their policy violated the Crown Act, which, of course, we know prohibits race-based hair discrimination at work or at school. So in this case, the student handbook said that male students' hair can't extend past the eyebrows or the earlobe. So again, all of this centers around hair length, right? The judge saying it doesn't necessarily discriminate against the hairstyle, only the length. So George and his family refused to cut his hair. Instead, we've seen him wearing it straight back away from his face, above the earlobes, right? The district said it still violated the policy since, and then
Jordany says, now come on, Anton, why can't men have long hair? You can, but you're not a man, you're a boy. That's not a man, that's a boy. See, men can do what they want because men understand that there's always going to be consequences that come along with it. When you don't get the opportunities, when you can't get in certain rooms, when certain things don't go your way, you can't protest your way to success. You just got to deal with what comes along with it. Men can do what they want. Boys, listen, when you are then being a ward of the state, when you are under the care of a specific environment, you gonna do what you supposed to do. And we don't have no order no more. You can't pull that junk in the army. You can't pull it in the military. You can't pull it at certain jobs. You can't pull it in certain professions. You can't do what you want to do when you want to do it. And because you can't just always say, no, I don't feel like it, or I'm connected to my ancestors. Nah, fam, that's nice. Well, then get the hell up out of my organization. That's the thing. You do when you follow the rules that's ahead of you. And this ain't a democracy. Everything that ain't up to you. Men can do what they want to do. Boys do what they told to do. They're given instruction. And if y'all understood structure, and if you understood discipline, and if you understood rules and regulations, our communities wouldn't be in last. I never seen a group of people that's arguing. The ones that's always at the bottom is always the ones that got the most to say. How is that? Everybody understand that there's structure and rules, except for the people that's at the very, 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 very bottom of the totem pole. We at the bottom when it comes to the jail numbers. We at the bottom when it comes to finances. We at the bottom when it comes to complaining, our communities, our home prices, our culture, the things that we embrace as our cultural norms. But for some reason, we don't never want to look at something a little bit differently than what it is that we used to looking at it as. And the only thing that matters is your little stupid African ancestors. Well, let me tell you something. Half of y'all don't even know where your ancestry come from. And it's not because you was taken from your ancestors. It's because your mama and your grandmother was busting it down for a real one, and that ain't even your real daddy. I don't care nothing about your background and your culture. I don't care nothing about your background and your culture. Listen, I believe in discriminating. I believe that if you come into my organization and you don't fit the mold, you don't fit the narrative, you don't fit the look, you don't fit whatever it is that we got going on, you hitting the door. I'm not even going to take your interview. I'm not even interested in talking to you. I don't even want to have a conversation. You can't even get into certain fraternities and sororities looking how you want to look. You move according to what the rules, the regulations, and how they want to present themselves. But you want to come into this place and think that you're going to do what you want to do. No, you're going to follow the rules like everybody else. You're going to do what you want to do. Always skirting the line. We always got to go right at the edge in order to figure out, but I'm following the rules almost. Get your life together. Man, why can't we be having long flowing hair? You can when you decide to start your own business and do what you want to do. But as long as you doing something where you getting instruction, money, resources, or anything from anybody else, you follow the rules. That's how it works. It's not that difficult. It's not that hard to figure out. I'm so tired of y'all siding with all of these women that ain't even got men in the household that give instruction to a lot of these guys. You do what you're supposed to do so you can do what you want to do. That's how it goes. Niggas ain't models. What y'all think? You think you a French model? Bonjour. This is a Pharrell fashion show? This is school.
He's since faced punishment on that. And based on the ruling that we got today from the judge down there in Texas, the punishment removing George from the classroom, that in-school suspension, Kira, still stands.
Well, and we have seen the advocates not only in his area, but across the country.
Yeah, advocates have really pushed back on this, right? They say this rule is really a loophole, allowing districts to still discriminate on certain hairstyles. Let me just take off my correspondent hat for a second. I can speak as an African-American woman. In order to have braids in the first place, your hair needs to be at a certain length in order to catch the...
Some girls saying, it should be. Every school in America need to be a military school. Every school in America as a matter of fact, we almost need to separate the boys and the girls. It needs to be a school for boys and a school for girls. Man, let me become president one day. I'm changing everything. It needs to be separation. A school for boys that are groomed to be men, and a school for girls where they can have etiquette classes in charm school. And they need to be going through all of the different courses of what it takes in order to be a sufficient adult. If I ever get complete power, if I get total control and a benevolent dictator over this country, it's over. Women gonna be in cooking classes. Men are gonna be military style, boarding school. This is what you gotta do. This is what it takes in order to be successful. I could fix the black community, but it's just that it's too many of y'all feminists, men and women and simps that reject it. I could fix your household. I could fix your family. I could fix your baby daddy. I could fix your baby mama, but it's too many of y'all that's living in y'all femininity. I can't fix ignorance.
the strands, cornrow it back, or even lock it. So texture and length are key to getting this hairstyle, which is, of course, we know is rich in culture and to many other heritages, has significance, has meaning. So what advocates are saying here, Kira, is that rulings like these are a way to control or prohibit these types of hairstyles. We are getting reaction from the district at this hour. They're saying the decision, the Crown Act decision, was meant to allow braids, locks, or twists, but never intended to allow unlimited student expression. So we see a little bit of back and forth on both sides of this, and I'd have to imagine for the family here, they have plans to fight this.
And you bring up.
No, you wouldn't have more members of the alphabet community. That's a lie. That's a lie. That's one of the biggest lies that I've ever heard in my entire life. You would not have more, you would have less. Because men would be under men, and they wouldn't be influenced by women and fatherless households, and we would have more structure, we would have more instruction, and we would absolutely start to solve for the problems that we have in our society. You wouldn't have more. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It was not normal when we was going to, listen, I went to an all-boys school when I was in middle school. That wasn't normal. We didn't see that junk happening. You know when I started to see it happen? When I got to high school. When I got to high school and I seen every girl had a gay best friend, that's when I started to see it permeate. And I was like, see, it was funny because we was looking forward to going to the dances with the girls at Mercy. And so we would go and we would link up with them and all of this stuff. And every guy, they had a different girl or a girlfriend that was at the private school. And we would link up, and it was something that we actually could focus on our schoolwork because we wasn't so easily distracted by trying to impress girls. So the guys, they showed up and they dedicated themselves to being great men. They was more focused on their sports. They was more focused on their schoolwork. They was more focused on networking. They was more focused on taking care of business. While they were in school, they were focused on school. We wasn't distracted by all of the other stuff, the fashion show, because wasn't nobody trying to impress nobody. Didn't nobody care about what you wore. We cared about your intelligence. We cared about your delivery. We cared about your ability to communicate. We cared about what your future was. We talked about stocks. We talked about businesses. We talked about what each other parents did for a living. We talked about where we came from. We wasn't sitting there trying to dirty Mac or focus on girls or focus on women or focus on our hair or focus on any of that. We were focused on becoming men, and it changed my life. Those 2 years that I went to private school, a Catholic private school where we focused on God. We had to take classes that you had to learn about structure, God, geography. You had to take other languages when we was in middle school in order to make sure that you was well versed. We had to be inspired. We took certain field trips. We went to certain places. We understood what men did, and it was groomed for men. We were taught by men. Very rarely did we even have a female teacher. We didn't have female teachers. We didn't have female teachers at all. And the girls, they operated differently. When they was in their school, they focused on the stuff that they were supposed to focus on. When we was in our school, we focused on stuff that we were supposed to be focused on. It was a separation. And nobody was trying to focus on or impress anybody. And so now you got everybody being able to do what they want to do based off of how you feel. You would solve for 98% of the problems that's happening in society if we just start having more structure, because structure provides guidance. Guidance provides results. And so if you start putting people and putting things in their place instead of us all having to try to figure it out by having the experience, you don't have to go through it and suffer through it in order to get to it. We suffer in controlled environments so that we learn a lesson, and then you don't have to necessarily take a drug to realize that the drug is not good for you. Oh my God, we need to do it like this. We need to do it. No. In order for us to solve for the problems in our society, we have to get back to the core of what it is right and wrong. And until we do that, as long as we keep trying to remix it and having conversations, and I'm going to just do this, and I'm going to write my own vows, and men can do this, or girls can do this, and guys can do that, and this your gay best friend, and this is how you operating, and ain't nobody calling it out, and ain't nobody having an honest conversation about the stuff that we dealing with on a regular basis, well, guess what? This is what you got to deal with. This is what's going to happen. It's going to continue to get worse before it gets better. You're going to have more women having children out of wedlock, more men deciding that they want to divest themselves from what's happening in society. And it's going to get exponentially worse because we have no instruction on how we're going to go about doing things. It's no coincidence. It's not a coincidence that the overwhelming majority of every dude that came through that school is successful. And when I say successful, I mean incredibly successful. They are the leaders of society. You think that leaders are made just because that's how they woke up? Leaders are groomed. They're groomed for the positions that they have. They are set, it's set within them. Hey, listen, this is what you're going to be when you grow up. Now, of course, you're going to have a couple dudes that fall through the cracks, or this happened or that happened, but leaders are groomed. They are not born. They are groomed. And if we don't get to grooming what men are supposed to be and what women are supposed to be, what do you think is going to, why do you think that society is so messed up right now? I mean, God, I feel like I should be connected to my ancestors.